Can you graft a week-old bum on a ewe? That's the question we're trying to ask here today. Here is the little bum in question. Here. So, kicked off lambing with a set of triplets. What a way to start with ewes that were brand new to me. So it was my Finn East Frisian Cross who lamb. She had a ram lamb first, and then a ewe lamb, and then another ewe lamb. So the first two were both around 5 pounds, and then the last one was only 3.5 pounds. And of course, the evening that she lambed, it was only 10 degrees and had about a 0 wind chill Fahrenheit. And at first she seemed like she wanted all three, and then she decided to just take the bigger two and kind of ignored and kept pushing away the little tiny ewe lamb. So I went ahead and made the decision to just pull that lamb right away. It was just really cold and she was really tiny, and I just knew she would get chilled really, really fast if we didn't do something. So we went ahead and we took her in and started feeding her a bottle. She lived in our basement for several days until it warmed up. And then we brought her back out to the barn in her own little pen and continued to bottle feed her every 2 hours through the day and about 4 to 5 hours at night. Anyway, my goal was I didn't want to have any bums. I mean, it always happens, but I just think they do so much better if their mamas raise them than if we raise them. So my goal was to find a ewe that had a single and get this lamb grafted onto her. Well, shortly after I got her back out to the barn, my next ewe, another ewe, she lambed, and she just had one big single ewe lamb. So I thought, well, here's my chance. Problem is, or the problem was, by the time I found that lamb, she was already dried off. And ideally, grafting is really, it's such an art anyway. It can be tricky. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. I have no experience doing it with sheep. We've done it with calves quite a bit because we have milk cows. We've had milk cows for a long time, and people used to just bring us bum calves all the time, so had quite a bit of experience in that area. Hi. I don't know if you can see the bum right now. She's actually napping at my feet. You see her? Oh, there she is. Yep. Anyway, so I thought, well, here's my chance, and it's not ideal conditions, but when is it ever? What could it hurt? Might as well at least try, and if I still end up with a bum at the end of it, well, then nothing's really changed, has it? So the lamb was already dried off. So the first thing that I did was I got the ewe and her lamb put into a jug. Now, a jug is just a small pen that you usually put a ewe and her lambs in after she has lambed, and it just kind of keeps everybody together and helps them bond and the lambs nurse and all that kind of stuff. And then after a day or two or whatever, and then you can kick them out or whatever your usual routine is. So I put her in the jug, and then I went ahead and I put my little bum in there and just watched them to see what she would do. And I mean, for a good 5 minutes, she just went back and forth between sniffing this little gal and sniffing her lamb and trying to figure out, where did this extra lamb come from, and is she mine? And it seemed like it was going pretty good, but then after about 5 minutes, she finally decided that this was in fact not her lamb, and she did not belong in the jug. So she started to butter a little bit, so I went ahead and I pulled her out for her own safety, and then I decided to put a halter on her and tie her up. And this particular method is called restraint grafting. And from my research with sheep, it typically has about a 70% chance of working. The downside with it is it's kind of labor intensive because it usually takes about 4 days or so to work, which I didn't really mind because feeding a bum lamb a bottle every 2 hours is a lot of work anyway. So what you do, it's very simple, is you just restrain them, put a halter on them, and leave them tied up. You leave them long enough so they can eat and drink and lay down, all that good stuff, but they can't hurt your bum lamb. You know, they can't get a run at them, butt them, you know, any of that kind of stuff. And the hope is that after 4 days, they just give in, I guess, and decide it's easier to just take the lamb. Now, I also had read that another method that had a lot of success was, and I can't remember the name of it now, I'll have to look it up. But basically, the basic idea is you get these little coats. Actually, they're called, they're stockings for like underneath a cast. If you break your arm or your leg, you know, and they put that stocking on, and then the padding over it, and then your actual cast. So anyway, my husband happened to be working in town this day, so I called him. I said, go to the pharmacy and find me a stocking. Well, it turns out nowhere in our small town had these things. So he stopped by the thrift store and found a sweater for $1. I love the thrift store. So he came home and we cut the sleeves off of this sweater and we put one on each of the lambs. Now the idea is that they wear these sweaters for about 24 hours or so, and they kind of get each other's scent. And then after 24 hours, you pull them away from mama, out of sight, and where they can't hear each other, and you switch the coats, and then you put them back in with mama, and hopefully, you know, the orphan lamb smells like her lamb, and she accepts them. So I tried that, and also the other side of that too was we had another cold snap, and it was really cold. Remember, this bum was tiny. She was only born at 3.5 pounds, and so the coat was really to help keep her warm too. So it did two things, and it did them pretty well. Anyway, so I was pretty anxious to see if this would work. So they had the coats for 24 hours. I pulled the lambs off. I took them back to the jug in my basement. I left them there for 3 hours. I switched the coats, and then I brought them back to the ewe. Well, that didn't work very well. She seemed crankier than ever. So then at that point, I just left her tied up. And what I would do is I would just come out every couple hours and make sure that the bum was able to suck when her lamb sucked. Oh, and also when I left them together for that 24 hours, I was coming out here every 2 hours to make sure the bum was sucking the ewe. Yes, even through the night. I was pretty tired. Anyway, so I didn't quite get the result that I had hoped for, and I was pretty disappointed, and I figured, well, I am just going to have to bum this lamb again. The thing with grafting, you know, it really is an art, and you really have to be careful because, you know, if you mess with them too much, you can not only end up with the bum you started with, but you could end up having the ewe reject her own lamb as well. So end up with 2 bums, huh? Yes. So you just have to really be careful and just be prepared for the potential consequences. So I brought the lambs back in from the basement, and I didn't quite get the reaction that I had hoped for. So what I ended up doing was I figured, well, they say that the restraint grafting takes about 4 days, so I'll give her 2 more days of being tied up. And mind you, when I say she was tied up, I mean she was on a very loose line. You know, it wasn't long enough for her to get tangled up, but I mean she had plenty of room to lay down and eat and drink, so you know, it's not like I had her snubbed up to a post or something. Yeah, hi. So I did that for a couple more days, and she was starting to get well, I think I did it for 2 more days, and then I let her go, and then she still just seemed like she wanted nothing to do with this bum lamb. So I kind of thought, well, this just isn't gonna work. But then I decided I would try one more thing, just because she had a really big, healthy ewe and it had kind of warmed up. So I decided, well, I'm gonna separate those two. I'm gonna pull her lamb and the bum lamb at night, and I'll put them in their own jug. And then, because I'm already coming out here in the middle of the night, I come out to the barn every night at about 2 a.m. and I check and make sure I don't have any new calves or lambs. And so I figured, well, when I come out at 2, I will put them both in her jug and let them suck and see how she does. We'll try that for a little while, and if it still doesn't work, well, then I'll just go ahead and bum the lamb again. So I have been doing that now for a couple days, and it has been going really, really well. And let me tell you, it's way better, I think, than, hi, are you wanting to be on camera? Yes. Than having to feed a bottle, and even more so than just the work. Hi, Jojo. Is I just think that the lamb is so much healthier. When I was feeding her a bottle, she just had a poopy bottom and just didn't seem like she was really thriving like she is. I'm getting attacked with being on the ewe. And so here is what I'm doing now. You're eating my shirt. At about 6 o'clock, 6 to 8 p.m., we come out and we do our chores. I pull her lamb. I don't know if you can see her. She's right here. Let's see. Oh yeah, there she is, getting me. So I pull her lamb and the bum, and I am putting them in the pen with actually this ewe right here that's hanging out with us. You see her here? Yep, there she is. She had a set of twins. So I put these two in with her and her twins, and then the other two lambs. And I leave them there over the night. And then at 2 o'clock, I put them in the jug with the ewe. And I don't tie her up anymore because she's just so happy to have her lamb. She stands there really nice and she lets them suck. And then when they are done eating, I put them back in the pen with the other lambs. And then when I come out in the morning to do chores at 6 to 8 a.m., I do the same thing. I put them in and let them eat. And then at that point, I just turn them all out together, and they're together through the day. And then at about noon, I take one of my other ewes that has lambs and I put her up on the stanchion and give her a little grain, and I let the bum suck a little bit just to make sure she's getting plenty to eat. And then I also do that again in the evening when we do our evening chores. And then at that evening chores, I separate the bum and the single lamb again, and the cycle starts over, and that's actually working really, really well. And I will show you some clips of when I've been coming out to the barn and just during the day to check, and I will see her just sucking that ewe and the ewe letting her. So I think it's going really well. I'm going to keep an eye on her and just make sure she is growing and gaining weight. And obviously she's a lot tinier than the others, but she seems spunky, she seems healthy, and hopefully she'll continue to thrive. So I don't know exactly if you would call that a grafting success, but it seems to be working for us. So anyway, I hope you guys learned something or at least enjoyed it. And if you have any tips, I would love to hear them. We'll catch you guys in the next one.